Sabians. Some say that, following the closing of their Platonic academy in Athens in 529 AD by the Emperor Justinian, the last of the Neoplatonists moved east, seeking temporary refuge at the court of the king Khosroi of Persia, 512 to 514, 579 AD, though, finding their situation inhospitable, departed from Persia to Haran, where they joined the Sabians, another important school of translators of Greek works into Arabic, though primarily interested in mathematical and astronomical works. Sometime at the end of the Neo-Sumerian Empire, circa 2000 AD, there was built a temple of Sin, the god of the moon and planet in the Mesopotamian religions of Sumer, Akkad, Assyria, Babylonia, and Aram, who was worshipped Haran into the Islamic period. Haran first appears in the book of Genesis as the home of Terah and his descendants, and as the temporary home of his son Abraham, from where his nephew Lot, and Abraham's wife Sarah planned their journey from Ur of the Chaldees to the land of Canaan. Haran, originally known as Kari, was less than 100 miles from Samosata, the capital of Commagene, and belonged to the Roman province of Osrhoene. The city was called Helenopolis in the early Christian period. It is mentioned, in Moses of Korin's and Mikhail Shamchin's History of Armenia, as being under the authority of Helena of Adiabene, who had converted to Judaism and moved to Jerusalem where she became allied with the house of Herod. Haran was originally governed by descendants of the daughter of Helena's son, Isates II, who had also converted to Judaism. The Sabians of Haran are often considered to be the same as, or related to, the Gnostic community of the Mandaeans. 4es. Drauer has suggested that the parallels between the Mandean and Kabbalistic ideas reflect a common Gnostic origin, a subterranean stream of ideas which emerges in a variety of religious movements. 5. Nathaniel Deutsch, in the Gnostic imagination, Gnosticism, Mandaeism, and Merkaba mysticism, recognizes that at present, we must be satisfied with acknowledging the phenomenological parallels between the Mandean and Kabbalistic traditions, although we must also seriously consider the possibility that both Mandean and Kabbalistic sources drew on a common pool of earlier, Jewish, theosophic traditions. 6. The Sabians, according to Daniel Quolson, 1819 to 1911 AD, author of a monumental work, Die Sabier, retained a mixture of Babylonian and Hellenistic religion, superposed with a coating of Neoplatonism. 7. As Majid Fakhri has explained, in A History of Islamic Philosophy, their religion, as well as the Hellenistic, Gnostic, and Hermetic influences under which they came, singularly qualified the Haranians to serve as a link in the transmission of Greek science to the Arabs and to provide the Abbasid court from the beginning of the 9th century with its greatly prized class of court astrologers. 8. The Sabians identified themselves deceptively to the Muslim authorities with the Sabians of the Quran, to gain the protection of the Islamic State as people of the book. According to al-Biruni, a Muslim scholar of the 11th century, the Sabians were originally the remnant of Jews exiled at Babylon, where they had adopted the teachings of the Magi. These, he believes, were the real Sabians. However, he indicates, the same name was applied to the so-called Sabians of Haran who derived their system from Agatodaman, Hermes, Valles, Maba, Sawar. 9. In reality, the Sabians inherited the traditions of similar Jewish Gnostic sects like the Hypsisterians in nearby Cappadocia, and transmitted the traditions of Neoplatonism and Hermeticism to the Islamic world. They worshipped the planets, and were reputed to sacrifice a child, whose flesh was boiled and made into cakes, which were then eaten by a certain class of worshippers. 10. Ibn al-Nadim, d. 990, an Arab Muslim scholar and bibliographer, listed under alchemy the scientific texts the Sabians composed to convey the revelations of their prophets Agathodaemon and Hermes, whom the Sabians identified with Seth and Enoch. 11. Alchemy, which derived from Hermeticism, was transmitted to Europe via the Muslims. In the Islamic world, the influence of the Hermetic teachings of the Sabians helped to shape the pursuit of chemistry among the Muslim scientists, which was studied mostly in connection with alchemy. According to Sesnak, thanks to the Crusades, and to the penetration of Arab philosophy and science into Sicily and Spain, Europe came to know the Greek texts with their Arab commentaries, in Latin translations for the most part made by Jews. The result was an extraordinary increase in the prestige of astrology, which between the 12th and 14th centuries enjoyed greater favor than ever before. 12. Even the name alchemy affirms the Arabic origin of chemistry, being derived from the Arabic term alchimiyya. The greatest Arabic alchemist was Ar-Razi, a Persian physician who lived in Baghdad in the late 9th and early 10th century, who drew his central concepts from the Sabians. The most famous was Jabir ibn Hayyan, known to the West as Jeber, from whom we derive the word gibberish. Jabir's works, which were translated into Latin in the 12th century AD, proved to be the foundation of Western alchemists and justified their search for the philosopher's stone. But during the 9th to 14th centuries, alchemical theories faced criticism from a variety of practical Muslim chemists, including Al-Kindi, Al-Biruni, Avicenna and Ibn Khaldun, who wrote refutations against the idea of transmuting metals. The Arabs' fascination with alchemy was founded on a work called the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, not known during the Hellenistic era. The Emerald Tablet comes from a larger work called Book of the Secret of Creation, which exists in Latin and Arabic manuscripts, and was attributed to Apollonius of Tyana, called Balinus by the Arabs. The Arabs identified Hermes with a prophet mentioned in the Quran, named Idris, equated with the prophet Enoch of the Bible. Just as Hermes came to be identified with Enoch, Seth, the son of Adam, was identified with Agathodaimon, who engraved on stone the names of the months, years, and constellations, with the assistance of an angel of God. 13 Seth passed on his wisdom to Zoroaster, and from him to Pythagoras, Empedocles, Plato, Aristotle, and the Neoplatonists. Hermes, like Seth, was said to have inscribed his knowledge on 2 pillars, and Herodotus described the pillars of the Phoenician Hercules. One was of pure gold, the other was as of emerald which gleamed in the dark with a strange radiance. 14.